Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins History, Coin Collectors and Treasure Seekers. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of one of the most iconic coins in American history, the Lincoln cent. But this isn't just any old penny. This is the 1968 Lincoln penny, a small copper coin that might just be hiding a massive secret. A coin that millions of Americans have held in their hands without ever realizing its hidden potential. A coin that, in some rare cases, could be worth a life-changing amount of money. So grab your magnifying glass, dust off those old coin jars, and stick with us all the way through, because by the end of this video, you might just find out that you've been holding on to something truly extraordinary. And yes, we will reveal exactly how much one of these seemingly ordinary pennies could be worth, and believe me, you won't want to miss that part. To understand why the 1968 Lincoln penny is so special, we need to take a step back and look at the time period it comes from. The year was 1968. The United States was in the midst of major political and social changes. The Vietnam War was ongoing, civil rights movements were making history, and a generation was rising with a voice of its own. It was a time of transformation and turbulence, and even something as small as a penny became a silent witness to that era. The Lincoln penny, first introduced in 1909, has long been a symbol of the American spirit. Featuring the profile of President Abraham Lincoln, it was the first U.S. coin to honor a real person. By 1968, the coin had already gone through several subtle changes, but it still held onto its classic design, Lincoln's right-facing bust on the obverse side and the majestic Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But here's where things get really interesting. In 1968, the United States Mint produced Lincoln pennies at 3 different locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. If you look closely at a penny from that year, you might spot a tiny letter under the year, either a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. These small mint marks can make a huge difference in the value of the coin. Pennies struck in San Francisco, for example, tend to be produced in smaller quantities, especially proof versions, and collectors absolutely love them. Now, most people think of pennies as just loose change, something to toss in a jar or ignore at the bottom of a purse. But serious coin collectors know better. Certain mint years and mint marks can turn an ordinary coin into an object of intense interest and, in some cases, serious value. The 1968 penny is one of those special cases, especially when it's in excellent condition or has specific rare traits. One of the things that makes some 1968 Lincoln cents so incredibly valuable is their condition. Coins that have never been circulated, also known as uncirculated coins, are worth much more to collectors than coins that have been used in everyday transactions. These coins are typically graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a perfect specimen with no flaws under 5x magnification. Now imagine finding a 1968 penny with a high grade, something like MS-67 or MS-68. That alone would place it in a rare category, but there's more. Some of these coins have been discovered with unusual features: double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, or even planchet errors, all of which can drastically increase the value of the coin. Let's talk about one of the most exciting errors, the double die. In this type of error, the image on the coin appears to have been stamped twice, creating a noticeable doubling effect on letters or numbers. When this occurs on a 1968 Lincoln penny, especially on the mint mark or the word Liberty, collectors go absolutely wild. These are not printing mistakes, they are minting anomalies that occurred during production, making them extremely rare and incredibly valuable. And don't forget the elusive San Francisco Mint proof coins. Proof coins are struck using specially prepared dies and planchets, and they have a mirror-like finish that makes them stand out. If you come across a 1968 S-proof penny in pristine condition, especially one with a cameo or deep cameo appearance, it can be worth many times its face value. Let's also touch on the metal content of the coin. In 1968, Lincoln pennies were still made primarily of copper, about 95% copper and 5% zinc. That's why older pennies feel heavier and look richer in color than the modern, mostly zinc versions. This high copper content, while not enough on its own to skyrocket the value, adds another layer of appeal for both collectors and metal enthusiasts. So where should you look for these potentially valuable coins? Start with your own change jar. You'd be surprised how often rare coins slip into circulation unnoticed. Estate sales, flea markets, and old family collections can also be great places to hunt. If you find a 1968 penny with an S mint mark, hold on to it. If it looks nearly flawless or shows any signs of a mint error, it's time to get it professionally graded. There are reputable grading services like PCGS or NGC that can certify your coin and give it a market-recognized grade, a must if you're looking to sell or insure your coin. And now, let's talk about the part you've all been waiting for. Just how much could one of these coins actually be worth? You might think a penny is always worth just 1 cent. But what if I told you that a single Lincoln penny from 1968, with the right mint mark, in top-grade condition, and featuring a rare minting error, has sold at auction for as much as $75,000, that's right. $75,000 US. For a penny. It just goes to show that even the smallest things can hold immense value, if you know what to look for. So don't underestimate the coins rattling around in your drawer. One of them could be your golden ticket. Today, we're taking a closer look at one of the most iconic and underestimated coins ever minted in the United States, the 1970 Lincoln penny. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a penny, right? But don't let its size fool you. Because buried among the millions of these copper cents is a version so rare, so unique, and so valuable, that it could turn a regular coin collector, or even someone who just found one in their pocket change, into someone holding a piece of history worth a small fortune. So grab your coins, shine up your magnifying glass, and prepare to be amazed. Because today we're going on a treasure hunt that starts in the year 1970 and ends with the possibility of life-changing value. Let's start with the background. The Lincoln cent has been in circulation since 1909, originally released to honor the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the first time a real historical figure had appeared on regular-issue American currency. Over the decades, the design has remained mostly the same on the obverse, Lincoln's familiar profile facing right, but the reverse has gone through a few transformations. By 1970, the reverse side of the coin displayed the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Now, what makes the 1970 penny special? It's not just age or copper content, although that does play a part. In 1970, the United States Mint was still producing pennies primarily from a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc. These coins had a solid, weighty feel and that rich reddish-brown color that collectors love. But that's just the beginning of what makes some 1970 pennies extraordinary. You see, in that year, pennies were minted at 3 different facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each one left a little clue on the coin, called a mint mark, just below the date. A small d means it came from Denver. An S means San Francisco. And if there's no mint mark at all, it was struck in Philadelphia. Now, most of the 1970 Lincoln pennies are very common. They were produced in massive quantities and used by millions of Americans every day. But a tiny number, especially those bearing the S mint mark, are not like the others. They contain something incredibly rare. A subtle, almost hidden mistake made during the minting process. Something that transforms this ordinary-looking coin into a collector's dream. We're talking about the mysterious and valuable 1970 S Lincoln penny with a double die obverse. This error means that during the minting process, the die that struck the coin shifted slightly between strikes, causing a doubling effect, especially noticeable in the words, "Liberty, in God we trust," and even in the date itself. This doubling isn't just a manufacturing flaw, it's a treasure map for collectors. The moment a trained eye spots it, the coin goes from being worth 1 cent to being worth hundreds, thousands, or even more. And the 1970 S double die is one of the most sought-after error coins in the entire Lincoln cent series. But wait, there's more to the story. Another factor that skyrockets the value of a 1970 penny is its condition. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect, uncirculated examples showing no signs of wear or handling, even under magnification. Finding a rare error coin like the 1970's double die in near-perfect condition is like finding a four-leaf clover growing out of a pot of gold. The rarity of the error combined with high condition makes for a truly elite collector's item, and let's not forget proof coins. Proofs are specially struck coins made with polished dies and planchets, resulting in a mirror-like finish and razor-sharp details. In 1970, the San Francisco Mint also produced proof versions of the penny. While most are relatively common among collectors, a very small number were struck with errors, or retained their brilliant condition perfectly across decades. These coins are absolutely captivating under the light, and if they also contain a minting anomaly? You're looking at something truly special. People often ask, where can you find one of these rare 1970 pennies? The answer might surprise you. While many are already in collector hands or sealed away in graded slabs, some of these valuable coins still turn up in pocket change, in dusty coin jars, in old coin albums passed down through generations. The key is knowing what to look for. Flip over your 1970 pennies. Look for that tiny S under the date. Use a magnifier and inspect the lettering. Do the details look doubled? Is the coin free of nicks, scratches, and discoloration? You could be holding something far more valuable than you realize. There's also a special thrill in sending off a coin to a grading service like PCGS or NGC. They will authenticate it, assign it a condition grade, and encapsulate it in a tamper-proof holder, turning your discovery into an officially recognized collectible, ready for sale or auction. Stories of lucky collectors are out there, people who had a rare penny tucked away for years, only to later discover it was worth thousands. Every so often, one of these coins appears at auction and creates a buzz in the coin collecting world. And recently, one example of a rare and pristine 1970 Lincoln penny shocked collectors and bidders alike with its final sale price. Are you ready to hear what it sold for? One of these rare 1970 Lincoln pennies, complete with the San Francisco Mint mark, a double die error, and in impeccable condition, was sold at auction for a jaw-dropping total of $85,000. Yes, you heard that right. A single penny. Just 1 cent, transformed by time, error, and preservation into something worth $85,000. Today, we're zooming in on a small copper coin that many people overlook every day, the 1966 Lincoln penny. It might be sitting unnoticed in your drawer, buried in a coin jar, or even resting quietly in your pocket right now. But hidden among the millions minted in that year, there are some rare examples that collectors would do just about anything to get their hands on. In fact, one of these seemingly ordinary coins could be worth more than a luxury car, more than some houses, or even more than what many people make in a year. Yes, really. Stick around, because this isn't just a history lesson, this might just be your lucky day. Let's take a journey back to the year 1966. It was a time of transformation in the United States. The Vietnam War was escalating, the civil rights movement was continuing to reshape the country, and the Beatles were at the top of the charts. It was a powerful moment in American culture and history, and right in the middle of it all, the U.S. Mint was producing millions of Lincoln pennies, small but symbolic pieces of everyday life. Now, the Lincoln penny had already been in circulation for nearly 6 decades by then. First introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, it was the first American coin to feature a real historical figure. On one side, we have Lincoln's iconic profile, calm, strong, determined. And on the reverse, at that time, stood the Lincoln Memorial, introduced in 1959 to mark another Lincoln anniversary. It's a design that carried deep meaning and was instantly recognizable across the country. In 1966, the U.S. Mint was facing a coin shortage. As a result, certain changes were made in how coins were produced, and that has everything to do with why the 1966 penny is so intriguing today. One major detail that sets the 1966 penny apart is what's not on it. From 1965 through 1967, the U.S. Mint temporarily removed all mint marks from coins. This means that every 1966 penny, regardless of whether it was produced in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, appears without a mint mark. The reason? The mint was trying to discourage coin hoarding. People were pulling coins out of circulation, hoping they'd become rare or valuable, and the government wanted to slow that trend by removing mint identifiers temporarily. But here's where things get really interesting. Despite the absence of visible mint marks, not all 1966 pennies are created equal. A small number of them were struck with unusual characteristics: slight doubling in the text, odd die clashes, off-center strikes, and even rare planchet errors. And those imperfections are what transform a 1-cent piece into a prize worth thousands. Collectors live for these mistakes. They're not flaws, they're rarities. Each one is like a fingerprint, a unique result of a moment during the minting process when something went just slightly wrong. Maybe the die wasn't aligned properly. Maybe the coin wasn't perfectly centered. Or maybe it was struck twice in quick succession, creating a visible doubling of the design. Whatever the cause, these unusual details are what send collectors into a frenzy. Let's talk about some of the specific error types that make certain 1966 pennies highly desirable. Point 1. Of the most valuable is the double die obverse, where the words, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or even the date itself appear slightly duplicated. This isn't damage caused by wear and tear, it's an actual minting error, created when the die used to stamp the coin shifted slightly between strikes. These errors are incredibly rare, and if you happen to find one in high-grade condition, you're looking at a very serious collector's item. Another variation is the off-center strike, where part of the design appears pushed to one side, leaving a blank crescent on the coin. Then there are broad strikes, where the coin was stamped outside of its collar, resulting in a slightly wider, flatter appearance. There are even coins struck on the wrong planchet altogether, like a penny struck on a dime blank, which instantly turns it into a true oddity. And of course, condition plays a massive role in value. The grading scale, as many of you already know, ranges from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS 60 is considered mint state, but once you get into the higher 60s, MS 66, MS 67, and especially MS 68, the value increases exponentially. A flawless or near-flawless 1966 Lincoln cent, particularly one with a mint error, is like finding a perfect diamond in a sea of pebbles. But here's the kicker: since the 1966 penny doesn't show a mint mark, and since mint records from that period are harder to trace, identifying where and how the coin was struck becomes even more mysterious. That mystery only adds to its allure. Collectors love the unknown, the possibility that a coin might be part of a rare run, or struck with a now-retired die. And that's what keeps the hunt alive. Now, let's take a moment to think about where these rare 1966 pennies could be hiding. The answer? Almost anywhere. They've been in circulation for decades. You could find one in a roll of pennies from the bank. It could be mixed into your change from the grocery store. It might be sitting at the bottom of a family coin jar that hasn't been touched in years. These aren't locked away in museums, they're still out there. Waiting. Hidden in plain sight, and if you're lucky enough to find one, especially one in exceptional condition, or one with a true mint error, then you've got something truly special. You've got a piece of American history that has survived over half a century, weathered generations of pockets, drawers, and piggy banks, and somehow, still holds a secret that most people will never notice. So what's the magic number? How much could one of these tiny, copper coins, if it checks all the right boxes, actually be worth? Well, here it is. One such rare and immaculate 1966 Lincoln penny, featuring a significant minting error and preserved in near-perfect condition, was once sold to a collector for a staggering total of $89,000. That's right. A single penny. 1 cent sold for $89,000. Let that sink in for a second. Coins aren't just pieces of metal. They're stories. They're mysteries. And in some cases, they're hidden fortunes. Today, we're about to take a closer look at a coin that millions of people have handled without ever realizing its potential value, the 1971 Lincoln penny. Now I know what you're thinking, it's just a penny, right? A single cent. The kind of coin most people toss in a jar, drop under the couch, or forget about at the bottom of their glove box. But what if I told you that one of these common-looking coins could be worth a jaw-dropping amount of money? Not because of gold or silver, but because of rarity, condition, and a few incredible minting mistakes that make this penny a true treasure. So, whether you're a seasoned collector or someone who just found a pile of old coins in grandma's attic, you'll want to stay with me all the way to the end of this video. Because this isn't just about a penny, it's about history, mystery, and the thrill of the hunt. Let's start with the basics. The Lincoln penny was introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, making it the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. Over time, this small copper coin became one of the most circulated and recognized coins in American history. By 1971, it had already gone through a few design tweaks, but the familiar face of Lincoln still graced the front, and the Lincoln Memorial remained on the back, a tribute to one of the greatest leaders in American history. Now, 1971 wasn't just any year for the penny. This was a time when coin production was running high, and the U.S. Mint was striking millions upon millions of 1-cent coins. But here's the twist: within that massive batch of coins, a few rare and unusual specimens slipped through the cracks. Coins with small imperfections, misalignments, or unexpected features that collectors today will pay thousands of dollars to own. That's where the story of the 1971 penny really begins. First, let's talk about mint marks. In 1971, pennies were produced at 3 major U.S. mint facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. If your 1971 penny has a little D under the date, it was made in Denver. If it has an S, it came from San Francisco. And if there's no mint mark at all? That means it was struck in Philadelphia. Each of these facilities produced massive numbers of coins, but the ones from San Francisco, especially the proof pennies, are of particular interest to collectors. Proof coins are specially made for collectors, not for circulation. They're struck using polished dies and treated planchets, giving them a brilliant mirror-like surface and ultra-sharp details. But here's the thing: even with all the care that goes into making proof coins, errors still happen. And when they do? That's when things get exciting. Let's explore some of the rare errors and varieties found on 1971 Lincoln pennies that can send their value skyrocketing. Point 1: of the most famous is the double die obverse. This happens when the die used to stamp the coin is misaligned during production, resulting in a visible doubling of the text and sometimes the date. On a 1971 penny, this can appear in the words "Liberty" or "In God We Trust," or even the numbers in the date itself. This is not a trick of the eye, it's a real minting error, and collectors go crazy for it. Then there are off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't perfectly positioned during minting, resulting in a design that's shifted to one side, often leaving part of the coin blank. The more dramatic the misalignment, especially if the date is still fully visible, the more valuable the coin becomes. Other rare types include broad strikes, die cracks, and even struck-through errors, where a piece of debris got between the die and the planchet during striking. Every one of these mistakes tells a unique story about that coin's journey through the minting process. But wait, there's more. Some 1971 pennies were accidentally struck on the wrong planchet. That means a penny might have been struck using a blank intended for a dime or a foreign coin. These errors are extremely rare and often instantly recognizable because of the weight, size, or color of the coin being different from what it should be. And let's not forget the most important factor when it comes to value: condition. Coin collectors use a grading scale from 1 to 70 to determine a coin's condition. A coin graded MS 60 is considered mint state, but a coin that reaches MS 67 or higher is in elite territory, flawless or nearly flawless under magnification. When a rare 1971 penny, like one with a double die or off-center strike, is also in high-grade condition, that's when the value starts reaching unbelievable levels. Now you're probably wondering, how do you know if you have a valuable one? Well, the first step is to carefully examine any 1971 pennies you come across. Look at the mint mark. Study the lettering. Use a magnifier if you can. Does anything look doubled? Is the design off-center? Is the coin unusually shiny or crisp? And if you think you found something special, don't guess, get it graded. Reputable grading services like PCGS or NGC can authenticate your coin, confirm the error, and assign it a professional grade that gives it true value in the eyes of collectors and auction houses. Once it's certified, your coin could be a serious contender in the collector's market. Stories have surfaced over the years of people finding valuable pennies in change from coffee shops, gas stations, and even inside old piggy banks. You never really know when or where one might turn up, and that's what makes coin collecting so thrilling. It's part history, part mystery, and all adventure. So now, after exploring the design, the minting process, the errors, and the hunt, we've come to the big moment. What could one of these rare 1971 Lincoln pennies, with a notable mint error and in top-tier condition, actually be worth? One such coin, a 1971 Lincoln penny with a dramatic minting flaw, preserved in exceptional condition, was once sold at auction for a total value of $84,000. Let that sink in. A coin you might have overlooked, passed off as pocket change, or tossed aside without a second thought, could actually be worth $84,000. That's why we do this. That's why coin collecting is more than just a hobby. It's a chance to hold history in your hand, and maybe, just maybe, to stumble upon a hidden fortune. Today's episode is going to blow your mind, and possibly make you rush to your nearest coin jar, wallet, or childhood collection. Because we're talking about one of the most overlooked, everyday coins in your pocket, the 1980 Lincoln penny. Now, most people wouldn't give this little copper coin a second glance. After all, it's just a penny, right? 1 cent, virtually worthless. But what if I told you that hidden among the ordinary 1980 pennies, there are rare and remarkable versions that collectors are desperately searching for? What if I told you that one of these humble coins has sold for more than most luxury cars, more than what many people make in an entire year? Yes, one specific 1980 Lincoln penny reached a staggering amount at auction. But we'll get to that at the end. First, let's uncover why this small, copper-colored coin holds such a big secret. Let's rewind the clock to the year 1980. America was entering a new decade. The economy was shifting, inflation was rising, and the technology boom was just beginning to stir. Ronald Reagan was about to enter the White House, and the country was on the verge of a massive transformation. And in the middle of all this, the United States Mint was churning out millions of coins to keep up with demand. Among the coins being minted in 1980 was the 1 cent Lincoln penny, a coin that had already been in circulation for over 70 years. Designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the Lincoln penny has become one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. By 1980, the design had changed slightly. The reverse still featured the iconic Lincoln Memorial, introduced in 1959, and the obverse still bore Lincoln's classic profile. But what most people didn't notice were the tiny variations that began to occur during this period, subtle shifts, minting anomalies, and rare errors that slipped through quality control and made their way into circulation. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In 1980, the U.S. Mint produced Lincoln pennies in 3 different locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. This is where those little mint marks come in. A D under the date means the coin was struck in Denver. An S means San Francisco. And a 1980 penny with no mint mark? That one came from Philadelphia. Most of these coins were mass-produced, literally hundreds of millions. So yes, the average 1980 penny isn't worth much more than face value. But not all coins are created equal. There are a few rare 1980 Lincoln pennies out there with extraordinary characteristics. These aren't just worn-out old coins, these are pieces with mint errors, variations, and pristine conditions that set them apart from the rest. Let's start with the double die, one of the most famous and valuable types of mint errors in coin collecting. A double die occurs when the design on the die shifts between impressions, causing parts of the image to appear doubled on the finished coin. On the 1980 penny, this could affect the date, the word liberty, or even, in God we trust. It might be subtle at first glance, but to a trained eye, or even under magnification, it becomes obvious. And valuable, collectors go crazy for double die coins, and the 1980 Lincoln cent has a few out there that show this error clearly. Combine that with a high grade, meaning the coin has never been circulated and shows no signs of wear, and you've got something truly special. Next, there are off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't properly aligned during the minting process. This creates a fascinating look where the design is shifted to one side, sometimes even cutting off part of Lincoln's head or the date. The more extreme the shift, especially if the date and mint mark are still visible, the more valuable the coin. There are also die cracks, struck-through errors, and planchet flaws, each one adding to a coin's rarity and collectible value. A 1980 penny struck on the wrong metal blank, for example, would be extremely unusual and incredibly sought after, but even without these dramatic errors, condition matters a lot. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70. Anything above MS 65, mint state 65, is considered a top-tier coin. A 1980 Lincoln penny graded MS 67 or higher, with deep red color and sharp details, becomes highly desirable to collectors, especially if it also features a known minting anomaly. Now, how do you know if you've got one of these rare 1980 pennies? Start by checking the date and the mint mark under good lighting or a magnifier. Look carefully at the lettering and numbers for signs of doubling. Examine the coin's edges. Is it perfectly round, or slightly misshapen? Are there raised lines that shouldn't be there? Does the surface have an unusually shiny or satin-like finish? If you spot something unusual, or even if you just think your coin is in exceptional condition, it's time to get it graded. Professional grading services like PCGS or NGC will examine your coin, assign it a grade, and authenticate any minting errors. Once that's done, your coin isn't just a penny anymore. It's a certified collectible that can command serious attention in the numismatic market. Stories have circulated about collectors finding rare coins in the most unexpected places. A forgotten coin jar in the attic. A batch of old change inherited from a grandparent. Even a random penny received in change from a vending machine. Every time you come across a coin, especially an older one like the 1980 Lincoln cent, you've got a chance, however small, of discovering something extraordinary. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. So, how much could one of these rare, top-grade, error-marked 1980 Lincoln pennies actually be worth? Is it truly possible for a single 1-cent coin to command a price high enough to raise eyebrows and drop jaws? The answer is yes. One remarkable 1980 Lincoln penny, featuring a stunning mint error and preserved in near-perfect, uncirculated condition, was once sold to a private collector for an unbelievable total of $94,000. That's right. 1 cent turned into $94,000. So the next time you're sifting through your change, take a closer look. That unassuming penny might just be your ticket to a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating world of rare US coins, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We've got more treasures to uncover, more stories to tell, and maybe, just maybe, your next big find is closer than you think. Until next time, keep searching, keep dreaming, and keep your eyes on the pennies. Because as we've seen today, the smallest coin can sometimes hold the biggest surprise.